Who are you, everybody? And we're back with the man in the hot seat. Is Dan Pottsy to his pals. How are you, Pottsy?
Man, I'm really well, cheers, Kev. Really well, mate. I'm living the dream, so to speak, throughout this pandemic still, but I'm looking forward to football and talking football with you, my friend.
Fantastic. Listen, this is your part two. So what we're going to do, we're going to go straight into it because you know what? As you know on Who Are You, every minute counts. So the first question for you is, Dan, Arsene Wenger's got a book coming out. Do you think he's going to reveal all?
Do you know what it is about Arsene Wenger's book? I'm definitely getting that, by the way. That's the first thing I want to say is I'm definitely want to see what's been said in that. But for me, I think that he will reveal all, but I think he'll be very coy about it. Because Arsene Wenger over the past 22 years has been very, very much so like that. He's been very respectful throughout his career. He hasn't really slagged anybody off, so to speak. He's been very coy about who he likes and who he does not respect. And I think that will come out well in the book. I think it would be foolish to expect him to completely change character just because he can now sit behind the desk and write and publish something. I think he will remain as cool and calm as collective as he always has been. And I think that it will come across well in that, but you'll definitely be able to read between the lines. And I think that he will be able to give a great insight into how it was for him because he got a lot of blame, a lot of stick went towards him. And it'd be interesting to me to see how much he has been honest about how much was him and how much control he did have at Arsenal and how much control perhaps some of the other people that people talk about still to this day had in control of it. So I'm looking forward to hearing about all the player side of things, but more importantly about how it was for him when he was losing top players like Nasri and Clichy at the same time. Fabregas, Van Persie's were going. What was going on behind the scenes there? That would be the really interesting thing for me. And I really feel that we can, when you read it, and I think it comes out in October, you can read between the lines of what's going on. So I'm really interested to hear this, without a
Yeah,
doubt.
Dan. Yeah, I love what you just said about being able to read between the lines. But there's certain things that I think Arsene Wenger owes it to the Arsenal fans to be able to just say, right, this was the situation. There's certain things you could read between the lines on, but there's also certain things that Arsene Wenger could come out and say, look, the Ashley Cole situation and all this kind of stuff. Come out and there's certain things that, there's a lot of players that have taken a lot of flack for leaving Arsenal.
Mm.
And you don't know the true story because the club say one thing, the player says another. Now, will Arsene Wenger? This is some of the stuff that I want revealed, but I'm not sure whether he's going to reveal all or reveal some, or as you said, be coy and then you've got to try and work your way through. I don't want that. I want him to reveal. Fair enough, he can protect the boys upstairs if he wants to, but on transfers, tell it like it is. Why not give Ashley Cole what he wanted? Because
Mm.
maybe that might have set a precedent for the football club, and the football club weren't going to go down that route. So I can't wait for I can't wait for this book to come out so we could start getting excerpts and all that kind of thing. What's your
Yeah,
thoughts on
man,
that
same
one?
here.
Is that what would you like him to just come out and put something straight then?
I'd love to see it but I would say this one thing. I think it would be out of character for Arsene Wenger to do that because he's not done it before. If you look at Alex Ferguson's book, there was some horrendous stuff he put in there. Well, not horrendous. It was very brutally honest,
Yeah.
some of the stuff he put in there. But Alex Ferguson was always ruthless. Alex Ferguson was always ruthless. That's the difference between this book coming out and Alex Ferguson's book coming out because I believe personally that Arsene Wenger will tell the fans straight how it was, but he'll be very, very careful and coy about how he does that. And I think it will be a bit read between the lines and it will be a bit, okay, I totally get where he's going there. He's not saying that, but that's definitely what he means. Because I remember all the interviews that we had with Arsene Wenger and some of them were a little bit protect players. Some of the press conferences when it was nothing to do with Arsenal or away from it, he was brutally honest. And that I think will come out. So you'll kind of see the two sides of Arsene Wenger of I'm talking between the lines here because I'm still have respect for this person, but you'll also see the stuff when it has nothing to do with people he respects, and I think he will go through with that. It's like when he said that Jose Mourinho was scared of failure and all that kind of thing, and then he obviously responded back to him, and it went into a bit of heat thing. He had no respect there. He just said it how it was. If you're talking about somebody like David Dean, Ivan Gazidis, even Stan Kroenke, and some of the playing staff and some of the players at the club, I don't think you're going to be as that ruthless with Arsene Wenger's book. But it'll be really interesting to see. I can't wait for it.
But Dan, having been a player and looking at it from my point of view, Arsene Wenger is a lovely, lovely, lovely man. But let me tell you something. He was ruthless. And here's the reason why he was ruthless. He didn't think twice having to cut in, right? He didn't think twice about cutting Ashley Cole. He didn't think twice about letting players go. He didn't think twice. It weren't even a battle, you know, like we seen teams battle with players to try and keep them. No. When he was sure that you were gone, it was ruthless. And he'll speak nice about you, but you're gone. You're out of there. So I want to see a bit of that ruthless streak. Because to be a top manager, you have to have a ruthless streak. Let's be honest. You
Mm.
still could be nice about it, but I want to see that ruthless streak in this book because I want some of the questions are answered that is on our mind, is on our tongues. You know, we discuss in the background, but to hear it from him, to just set it straight, will be so powerful for us.
I believe so. And do you know what? It would be good if that does come out, because that will shock me if it does. And I think that it would be kind of, do you know what? Respect Arsene. You know,
Yeah.
you've come across as more of one of us than perhaps people would say that he was. You know, he said that since he's left, I'm an Arsenal fan like you. Hopefully this book will prove that.
Yeah, I hope it really does. I hope he really does. But look, let's move on. Uh, if Mikel Arteta, Dan, doesn't get the financial power to make significant signings, what do you think he'll do?
Yeah, this does worry me, Kev, to be fair, because I'm not so sure that he will get the backing from this board that perhaps we all believe he deserves and we need as a club, as Arsenal Football Club. But for me, I believe there is going to be problems this transfer window or whenever it's going to be because of what's going on in the world. So for me, I think they will use that even more so as an excuse now to say that we have not got other funds that perhaps we need. And I trust Arsene Wenger, Mikel Arteta, right? I do
Yeah,
trust him. From what I've seen so far, it excites me. So I would do this. We have some fantastic young players at Arsenal. Probably the best we've seen for a long, 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 long
yeah,
time, in my opinion. Okay. So what I would do and what I'd like to see Arteta do, and I believe he'll do this, is to look young and to look younger, not 18, 19, but if you can pull a couple of gems out of the sky like Guendouzi, Martinelli, bring through the likes of the Sakas and the Willocks and Nketiahs and all them, and you build around that and you mold around that team. So if you're going into the recruitment market and you're sitting there with Edu, and Edu says, listen, we're not going to go and buy Kylian Mbappe up front. We're not going to go and get an N'Golo Kante. But let's go to the Monaco and the Cannes and the places that even Man City, some of their youngsters, and see who's there is the next Jadon Sancho, who is the next N'Golo Kante, and let's find them and let's mold them into the team that we want. And I've said this from the start: if there's a player that is £2 million, and there is a Thomas Partey, but Thomas Partey is not going to fit into Arteta's style, I would rather Arteta go and buy the £2 million player that fits into the philosophy and style of Mikel Arteta. And that is, I think, what he's going to have to do, because I don't believe this board are going to give him 150, 200 million to spend. In my opinion, we need 6 players, okay? We need a right back, 2 centre backs, and 3 hard-working midfielders. They're the 3 areas that I think we need to strengthen. Sorry, 6 areas I believe we need to strengthen in the first 11. That's not going to be in one transfer window. That's going to be in 2 or 3. So what we've got to do now is use what we've got, and I totally understand why Arteta's made everybody installed a load of confidence, and I think that's what he's done. So for me, that's where he has to go down, is the younger route, getting this youth together and making them play as a team in his style and his philosophy.
okay. So basically, what you would do is you would forfeit results for the learning of the youth.
Yeah, I believe we
'Cause-
have to do that,
yeah,
Kev.
because that's what you're saying, isn't it, Dan? You know, you're willing to forfeit the results or certain results, not all results, but certain results, and for them to gain the experience in order to get to be top level players.
Absolutely. And we've seen what these senior players can do. For me, these senior players, and I believe in this passionately, their time is done. Their time is up. If it wasn't for Aubameyang, all of the others, I would happily see go. And I'm including Lacazette, Ozil, all of them, right? I would rather see Willock and Nelson given a chance than Mesut Ozil and Mkhitaryan. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I'd rather see what they can do and grow together under Mikel Arteta, because the culture in Arsenal is not a great place and the mentality is not great. And we've spoken about this before. And I think that lies with the senior players, the senior heads that these people, these young players are looking up to. I don't like that. I want that to change. So if I was Mikel Arteta, I'd be keeping them for now because there's nothing you can do. The transfer window's not open. But for me, over the next few windows, they would gradually, 2 or 3 at a time, be leaving, and I'll be progressing some of the youth. And I want to see players like Saka and Martinelli progress at Arsenal. But if they're learning off the likes of some of those senior players, I don't think that's good for them moving forward.
Me personally, Dan, I don't. I agree with you on the fact that I don't think there's going to be a lot of money to spend.
Mm.
I think what Mikel Arteta needs to do is buy the quality. Whatever budget he's got to buy quality to make a difference in that centre of the pitch. Whatever he does, he's got to get a centre midfielder who is all action and can protect the back four. He needs that, especially the centre backs. He needs. Saliba's coming in. He's a young. Look, we don't even know if he's gonna adapt yet. We're not sure. We're hoping he's gonna adapt. We do definitely need another centre half, etc. But I would like to see him fill out that squad with hungry players. Players who you don't even who is this? You don't know the name, but they come to the club and they fight and they battle and they scrap for everything, and they listen to him and they carry out what he wants to the letter. That is what George Graham done, and that is what I see Mikel Arteta. I want him to do that because we've gone for the names and it hasn't worked. All these big names and big wages and all this kind of thing. Aubameyang's worked out, of course he has. Whether he's still going to be there or not, I don't know. But
yeah, we don't know.
You look at Aubameyang. If we keep him, he's the jewel in the crown with a Martinelli coming through to fill in. But we need fight, we need aggression, and we need a will to win within the club that this group of players currently don't have. They've proven that they don't have. So
yeah.
I'm really hoping Mikel Arteta could buy some of these players to fatten out that squad. Scrappers, I don't care. I want scrappers in there.
Same here. And you know what? And I said this, and this was a very unpopular opinion that people did not agree with me with. I would take being out of Europe. Do you know why? Because it's what we deserve at the moment. And if it means that current crop of players are not playing on Thursday and Sunday every week, then it gives us one point of contact to go for, and that's getting as far up as that table as we can to that Champions League spot. And if that means that we're not playing Thursday nights, for me, that would help with the squad that we've got. So I would happily sacrifice Europe to go for the league. And people say that we haven't got the wealthy players and people would leave. Good. I want these players to be gone. So
Yeah.
I think that's the way forward, personally. Sometimes you have to start again.
Dan, I agree with you 100%. If you look, right, when Conte took over at Chelsea, do you remember there was a season where they were out of the league? Sorry,
Yep.
they were out of the Champions League.
Europe,
They were out of
yep.
Europe. They were out of Europe. When Klopp took over at Liverpool, there was a season where they were out. What that allows the manager or the coach or whatever to do is coach the players during the week. Because when you're playing Saturday, Thursday, or Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever it is, you just have time to prepare, play, recover, then the next game's there. You don't have an opportunity to actually coach. Conte had it, Klopp had it, Arteta's going to need it. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world for us to be out of Europe. In fact, Europe's been like a noose around our neck. I'll be brutally honest. We haven't been able to plan. We haven't been able to do anything because Thursday, Saturday, Thursday, Sunday. It's been crazy. Let's give Arteta the chance to be able to put the platform down. He's obviously the season's going to be extended now, finish, and then it's probably going to be a bit of a short, close season. Then we're going to get back to pre-season. Hopefully, the new season can start off in September or something like that. So, we can get some momentum going. but I seriously want him to fatten out that squad, Dan. I really do.
Yeah, man, I really do. And you look at it, going back to that, you look at Brendan Rodgers, what he's doing at Leicester. They're out of Europe. You look at what happened when Leicester won the league. Obviously, they only had to worry about that one game on a Saturday. Nothing else mattered. Liverpool under Brendan Rodgers, when they should have won the league, when they had Suarez, were out of Europe.
Yeah.
Conte, you've just mentioned, out of Europe. They all had a chance to compete with the title. And when I look at challenging for the title, I want to get to the end of April one year and go, 3 games left, boys. Three
We're in
games
it.
left. Come on,
We're
we've
in
got a
it. Come
chance
on,
here.
we can do
We're
it.
in it.
Yeah.
We're in it. I can't remember the last time we did that, Kev. You know, it's been so long. So I believe you're right. Fattening out that squad with that spine, put an N'Golo Kante and a Van Dijk of a younger age into that side and see what happens. Because that, for me, is what we need: is some power and presence, leadership, and like you said, hunger.
So it leads me on to the third question here, Dan. And this is an interesting question after we just had that talk. Are you excited about the future?
I'm excited about Mikel Arteta. I am excited about Mikel Arteta. And do you know why I'm excited about Mikel Arteta? Because he's done 3 things that I feel was no fan can be disappointed with. First of all, he's come in and he's won the fans over from his first press conference to his last conference, right? Literally, I would 100% agree with everything that he'd said, right? It got to the stage for me where he walked in and he said, we need energy. We need to get the fans back. We need passion. We need desire. He's true. It's so, so true. Then what he's done is he's come to that squad and he's made them play better. Doesn't matter whether your name's Saka or Mustafi. They might not be good enough, some of them, and I still don't believe there are.
Mhm.
But for me, they have improved under him. That's impressive. And the last thing he's done is he's installed confidence and he's shown faith in his team. So for me, the 3 things that he's done there is impressive as a young coach. Now, we've already looked to be against Manchester United and Chelsea at the Emirates. They were the best 2 games of the season for me, even though we'd lost one. Home games, it was there, the passion, the desire. You could see us improving. Everybody wanted it, chasing down the ball, high intensity, off the ball pressure. And I'm thinking, this guy's got a style already. This is completely different to what we've been seeing under Emery. So I'm really impressed with what he can do with this squad. What can he do once he gets the players he wants in? And that's why I'm not so annoyed with the Cedric Suarez signing and the Pablo Mari signing, because he's seen something in him with Edu there. They've identified and highlighted those 2 as individuals. So let's get them in the team and see what they can do.
Dan, can I throw a little curveball at you?
Go on, man. Go on.
You mentioned Cedric Suarez. Would you sell Bellerin and keep Suarez?
Yeah, man, I would. I know this sounds harsh
Because
because
I
Hector
would
is
as
a
well.
blue nut. Yeah, people have talked to me about Hector Bellerin. I don't hate the guy. I've got nothing. Why would I hate Hector Bellerin? He likes Arsenal. He's grown up with around Gooners for most of his adult life. But for me, if I'm looking at us moving forward, I'm not so sure that Bellerin is the player that we need moving forward. Now, if Cedric Suarez is going to fit into that mould better, I would play Cedric Suarez. And you know the other one who did actually fit into the mould was Maitland-Niles. Maitland-Niles has fallen out with Arteta, yes, and it may be looking like he's going to go now, which is perhaps a shame. However, his style of football as a modern day fullback under Mikel Arteta worked more than Hector Bellerin does. So I would, if somebody come in for Bellerin and offered, say, 35, 40 million, I'd consider that. Maybe go a bit higher and see if we can get him off the books for that much money. And you can put that into a centre half or a defensive midfielder. That for me would be great because we have got fullbacks that can cover him. So for me, it's an issue. It is an issue about Bellerin.
I'm excited about the future. And I'll tell you why I'm excited about the future. Because I believe now we've got a manager in the football club who is going to do the ruthless things. I really believe Mikel Arteta knows what he wants to do, and by hook or by crook, he's gonna get there. And I believe some of those so-called names that the fans like, I don't think he's not bothered and one iota about getting rid of them, because he's come from a background at Man City now that is an elite background of winning. It's elite. They win, 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 with their perennial winners. Arsenal haven't been yet, but yet people have been giving it the big I am at Arsenal, and I just don't get it. How could you be giving it the big I am when you've done nothing? You ain't won anything. You know, you're not consistent. You're inconsistent. He knows what it takes, both on the pitch and on the training ground. That's why he's probably filled up with Maitland-Niles, because Maitland-Niles is probably a laid back kind of guy. There's no room for laid back. There's no room for laid
Mm.
back. Same way you play, same way you train. And Pep won't stand for it, and Mikel Arteta's not going to stand for it. I think he could mould them. We've got a crop of young players, as you mentioned first. We've got a crop of young players who have got talent, and I'm going to chuck Kieran Tierney into that as well. Kieran
Yeah.
Tierney there. We've got a crop of young players, I believe, who can make the step up, but they have to be given a chance and they have to be given confidence. And I believe Mikel Arteta could be that guy, that George Graham type, who dragged the academy to the fore, and then we got successful. I think it can happen again. And I think Mikel Arteta's the guy. Obviously, that squad needs fattening up, don't get me wrong, but I think those young homegrown players could save Arsenal hundreds of millions in the transfer market.
I believe so. And you look at somebody like Leno at 27 years old and think he's got 10 years at Arsenal if he wants to be it, and he looks confident enough to be our number one. Kieran Tierney's a great shout. We've already mentioned Saka, Martinelli, Guendouzi. We've got some squad players there that can be around the team, like the Willocks and Nelsons and Kettiers, Maitland-Niles, Smith-Rose. For me, there's an exciting future. And of course, you mentioned it earlier, Saliba coming in. If we can get a couple more players in the transfer window in the positions that we need, which I believe are centre-back and defensive midfield,
Yeah.
then why can we not put together a decent run? Why can't we? In a couple of years' time, why can't we be looked, okay, he's got rid of the senior heads here, but these youngsters look like they're well up for it. Because people say you don't win anything with kids, but two of the best sides we saw were the 99 treble winners, that most of those have known each other since they were very, very young.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then you look at the Invincibles and how many of those players knew each other around it. Even the 98, the back five that George Graham inherited,
Yeah.
they all knew each other very well. So it's
Exactly.
all about team bonding and getting it together. And I think Arteta can do that with the youth. I really do.
Dan, I think the key to all this is the defence.
Yep.
I believe Arsenal would always score goals. I still believe that we'll score goals, whether Aubameyang stays or goes, whatever. I still think we will score goals because we've got flair up the top end of the pitch, and we'll have people who can score, put the ball in the net. If we can have that holding midfielder, and we can have a back four who can defend and who have pace, because I think our undoing has been we tend to sit deeper because Socrates and David Luiz probably ain't got the legs to play high. They haven't got
Mm.
the legs. Saliba can run, and we need another centre back who can run. If we can go 2v2 with usually one player or two players, we're in business, because that then allows fullbacks to push on, us to squeeze the pitch. And if we can do that, Dan, I'll tell you something, I think we can surprise a few. So
Yeah, do
that's
you
why
know
I'm
what?
looking forward to the future.
There's so, my man. I'm 100% with you. I'm excited for Arteta in the future, without a doubt, mate.
So, Dan, Arsenal and football is back on the 17th of June. What's your thoughts on it? There's a juicy game to start.
There's a big game to start. There's a big game to start off in style. Listen, I want football to come back. I do. I miss it massively. But for me, where it irks me a bit is the fact that we can't go to games. Now, I understand why we can't, and I get why we can't, and I agree why we can't. But for me, I was frustrated that the season was going to start behind closed doors. Now, the two positives: one, football is back. Two, they've made a decision, because
Yeah,
we're not left in the dark now, left in the lurch. Don't know whether it's going to come back. And if it comes back, is it going to be cancelled? Whatever it be, right? So they've made that decision. They're the two positive things. I'm looking forward to seeing Arsenal back on my TV. I know I can't go to games, but I'm looking forward to it. Where I have problems is the lack of atmosphere and perhaps the lack of passion or fans or desire that we may see. And that is something that unfortunately we really can't, I can't do anything about it. You know, I've just got to accept it. I've looked at the Germany games. I didn't think it was great. I just didn't like the fact that they scored. Scoring a goal to me, Kev, is magic.
yeah,
Yeah, not me scoring a goal. Seeing a goal, seeing
yeah,
Arsenal score a goal is magic. Yeah, and when you can't celebrate that, we're in a stadium with your fans, that does frustrate me. Okay, so that's where the downside and the negatives are of it. But let's get this season done. It looks like now it's come back, so we can hopefully, if there's no problems, continue it and finish it, and then move it forward. Because at the moment, was becoming a little bit depressing about where we're going to go with football and how we're going to get past this pandemic and these circumstances. For me, though, let's take some positive. Can Arsenal, with their lack of mentality, be okay going to a stadium with no fans there and a away stand. Might affect them at home more, but away, sometimes when you go to a place like Anfield or St James's Park or the Etihad, you see the sky blue and you think, wow, this is a real daunting place. And some of that, it shouldn't be like that. You should be up for every game. But with this mentality that we seem to have, I think there's an issue there. So perhaps we may see form go out the window, and who knows? If there's a time to beat Man City, we've got the right manager to do it. We've got the manager that knows how to play. Do you know what I mean? This
Yeah.
team. So who knows?
No, you're right there. And, we've seen some crazy results in Germany for the
Mm.
home teams, you know. So home advantage used to be obviously you having to battle and play against the 12th man, which was the crowd. The crowd could influence the officials. The crowd could influence their own players to do even better and put added pressure on the opposition. But that's been taken away. So I don't I don't go into this game with Man City with any trepidation. Can Arsenal win the game? Of course, Arsenal can win the game. Will they win the game? I don't know. City are going to be favourites just because of history and who they are and how they play, etc., etc. But if there's you're right. If anybody knows how to unhinge that Man City team, it's got to be Mikel Arteta.
And
But
do you know what? Pep
will he have enough
Guardiola.
pieces? Will he have enough pieces right now to be able to do it? I'm just not sure.
And that's my question mark. And that is my question mark. Is has he got this team the team to do it? I think he's got the knowledge and the know-how, but can he get that team to work on it? And Pep Guardiola, let's forget, isn't going to want to lose to Mikel Arteta in his
No.
first game. That's for sure. But do you know what? Got the hardest is Pep Guardiola, because Arteta knows exactly what Pep Guardiola is going to do. Pep Guardiola might not know how Arteta is going to set up or what he's going to do, because he could change it. He's not seen it before. He's not seen how they've come to the Etihad, this Arsenal team. So for me, Arteta's, we haven't got much to lose. I think Man City are the ones that will be looking at it. And the only downside for us about Man City is they were concentrating so much on the Champions League. They knew the league was done.
Yeah.
But now that looks like it could finish or might be delayed for a while or whatever it be. They might have to be concentrating on the league and winning those points now. So there's a positive and a negative here. It's going to be a very interesting way to see where it goes.
Yeah, it will be interesting. And look, we know what Man City are capable of. But I just want to see Arsenal play with that intensity. We've
Yeah,
gone
so do
there
I.
before. We've gone there before and played with some intensity. With Santi Cazorla having an absolute worldy game. Could you remember that way? He was everywhere, wasn't
Oh,
he? In the
amazing.
in the center of the pitch. Play with that hunger. I love it when we play with hunger. I don't care about the result. I want to win, but if we lose and we play with hunger, I can accept it. I can accept it.
Yeah, man, I'm with you there. If they give the hunger, passion, and desire that the fans would if they could play on that pitch, I'm a happy man.
Hey Dan, we're at the last question already, and look, we're
Wow.
30 minutes in. Can you believe it? Right.
It goes so quick.
I know it does, but we're having fun, so it goes quick.
It's all good, man.
Dan, do you think George Graham gets the credit he deserves for what he achieved at the football club?
I think he gets credit, but there's no way he gets the credit he deserves. And the reason I'll say that is because of a few reasons. George Graham isn't just all about 89, okay? It was a fantastic achievement and by far the best ending to any season that there'll ever be,
Ever.
okay? So he will, of course, ever. So he will, of course, be remembered for what he did in 89 for the Arsenal, right? No doubt. But people forget what else he did, and people don't look at what else he did. He is responsible for me finding football because he was the person who went and got Ian Wright.
Yeah.
So he was the person that brought through the likes of Paul Merson and Ray Parlour and give them a chance, and your kind self.
Yeah.
He was the player, he was the manager who decided to take us not just in 87 and 89, but through to 91, which you and Lee Judges and a few of us agree was an unbelievably good side
Yeah.
and an unbelievably good title winning side. And not only that, he's responsible for 93 Cup wins and 94 in Parma, but more importantly, he basically allowed Arsene Wenger to inherit that back five that he plucked out of nowhere. He went and got the David Seaman when John Lukic was a great keeper, by the
Yeah,
way. And
yeah.
people must have looked at that thinking, what have we got him for? We don't even need him. Why? Because he was an upgrade and he was better. He
Many
went and
were
brought Lee.
upset, Dan. Many were upset about that.
Many were upset. Yeah, because Lukic was a great keeper for us.
Yeah.
So I understood that at the time. But then you see Seaman and everyone goes, okay, I can see what George is doing here because he's a much better keeper. Lee Dixon and Steve Bold from Stoke. What's going on there? Nigel Winterburn from Wimbledon. come on, man, he's done this so well. And people talk about Jurgen Klopp nowadays doing it, and I've respected him for that, for going and getting Wijnaldum from Newcastle, Robertson from Hull. He's done that, George Graham. He did that all those years ago. And then he has then allowed Arsene Wenger to come into that club, bring the French people that he wanted in, that he believed could bring the flair, because he already had the stability. And we have to thank George Graham for that.
Yeah.
I've got so much to thank the guy for. And you know what? The last thing I'll say is why fans probably don't look at him as much of respect as they should is because the way that he went. Now, for me, it was unlucky. He was not the only manager
Oh,
that was in those circumstances, but he was the one that got caught, right?
yeah.
So unfortunately, he went, and the rest is history. But the other thing, he went and managed that lot up the road. That is what people got frustrated about.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
they're
but
the,
Dan, let me just say on this one. Let me just say on this one.
go on, go on.
If you remember, when he left Arsenal, he didn't go straight up the road.
No,
He done his stint at Leeds, and then obviously he wants to come back to London. Uh, and if we're honest, a manager's got to work. It's different when you're a fan and you support the club, and obviously he's an Arsenal legend. But if it can happen the opposite way, Sol Campbell, Pat Jennings, all that kind of thing. If it can happen the opposite way, we can't hold it against a manager to go and manage. Yeah, it's against that lot, and we're not concerned about them. But he won them a pot.
mm,
One of ours made them even a little bit of success. Do you know what I mean?
mm,
So it's it. I can't hold that against George because if we're honest, it was an unwritten rule that was going on in football back then because the
mm.
managers weren't greatly paid. They weren't greatly paid, and you know there was a few quid floating about under the table or whatever. That's what happened, without going into any details. But George Graham, what he done at Arsenal, he turned Arsenal from virtually a cup team who 80s, we got to a few semi-finals. In the late 70s, we got to 3 FA Cup finals, won one, lost two, into winning the League Cup against Liverpool. Then there was 89. Obviously, then we won the title again. Then won the two cups, FA Cup and League Cup. Then won a cup in Europe. I mean,
He's done it all.
nobody. He's done it all, and he learned about Europe and adjusted. And there ain't many managers at Arsenal who could say they've done it in Europe. And what a way to do it as well with a depleted squad.
Oh,
You
oh, I
know,
remember the night. Absolutely.
against a top Italian team as well. So
Oh, they
I,
were.
I particularly don't think he gets the credit he deserves. People tend to talk about statues. I think Arsene Wenger should get a statue, but I think George Graham should get a statue too.
Yeah, I believe so. And if they are going to give a manager one, I think they both deserve it. Herbert Chapman's got one. They're the two that come alongside him. So it's got to be George Graham and Arsene Wenger for me. But one question I've got, Kev, is obviously you was very young and coming through. What was he like with the young players, George Graham? Because obviously we've seen what he's like with Wrighty. He loved Wrighty and rightly so too. But what was he like with the young players?
George was an excellent coach, and the first the first kind of bits I got of dealing with him was when the youth team used to come across and play against the first team. So obviously I'm a young striker and coming across, and he would overload the back five and back six. That he'd put one player in midfield, he'll have the goalkeeper, and he'll have the back four, and he will play 11 against them. And that's how we used to coach them. So we used to, you got to get your distances right, you got to get your communication right. And me as being a striker, you're involved all the time.
Yeah.
And not only was he coaching, and this is what this is the great thing. Not only are you learning about what the manager's doing with the first team, he's actually coaching you as a young player in what to do and where to be and how to create problems for the defense. So he was a master tactician. Honestly, he was, and he taught young players how to play different positions and understand the game. People talk about having a football brain. Football brain is understanding the game, and some of it can be taught. Some of it you inherit. It's your talent. Some of it
Mm,
can be taught, and George Graham was a master at teaching it. That's why, if you notice, a lot of players could play out a position in different positions solely because George Graham taught you on the training pitch how to do it. Sometimes we move from a back four to a 3-5-2, 4-3-3, 4-5-1 at times. That's what he done, and he knew how to get the best out of the players. He was brilliant, honestly, he was. But if you look at the amount of young players who made the first team under George Graham over the period, we know Rocky and all those guys got their games under Don Howe. But if you look at the amount of players that came through from the Mersons and all that, myself, David Illia, Stephen Morrow, um, all these guys coming through, Alan Miller, Paul Dickoff, all these guys. There's loads of players. Neil Heaney, you know, players who played and had careers
mm,
who were taught by George Graham. So he was brilliant. Obviously, he had a great backroom staff with Pat Rice and, Geordie Armstrong, bless him, and Stuart Houston. Good
mm.
backroom people, knowledgeable people, Terry Murphy and Steve Burtonshaw and all these guys. There was a real good team behind it, but there was a lot of Arsenal minds there who'd played for the club, who'd been at the club, who knew what to do. So amazing for young players.
Oh man, that is such a good insight, man. That's so good. Cheers for that. Because I literally always wondered, Arsene Wenger, we know about with what he's like with faith in players and how much respect he had for the young players coming through. And like you said earlier, he didn't care whether your name was Thierry Henry or whether your name was an upcoming Cesc Fabregas. If you were good enough, he'd play you. And I always wondered what it was like with George Graham around young players, because obviously you've named hundreds that have all gone to have very successful careers. Maybe not just at Arsenal, but have gone and played at a very high level.
Yeah.
So obviously, a lot of them speak very, very highly of George Graham, and we have got a lot to thank him for. And maybe he doesn't deserve as much credit as he maybe should get.
But Dan, here's one thing. At the time when you're actually in it, here's the crazy thing: when you're actually in it, and as a team, George Graham, they made up all these names. Colonel Gaddafi rules with an iron fist, and all this kind of thing. But one thing I will say about George Graham is this: he was all for team, being together as a group. He didn't want, there was no cliques at the club. And up to this day, the players who play together, we still get along. Just as the same as we played together as if it was yesterday. We still get along. We still have a WhatsApp group going, and we still have banter and all that kind of thing on the WhatsApp group. Because when you're actually in it, and George Graham said no cliques, it's either you all go out or none of you go out. So you can imagine the Tuesday Club was fantastic because everybody wanted to be part of the Tuesday Club. Everybody couldn't go, but the Tuesday Club, and that was such an important part of us bonding as a group. And, whether it was home, away, whatever, we had that same feeling that the fans had because we lived it. We lived it with the fans. And it was such a special time, those times. I know we won't ever see that again, but we hope it could be replicated with these youngsters under Mikel Arteta, because I think Arteta's got a bit of George Graham in him. I really do.
I hope so, and I want to see the fans more connected with it. I want to see that, and let's hope maybe that is one positive that comes out of all this. They will miss us. The players will miss us, and they'll want us back in the stadium cheering them on. And I really hope that does connect the fans more with the team now. So maybe it's, in a way, a blessing in disguise, let's hope, because I think Arteta definitely gets the fans, and he understands the winning mentality and wants to bring it back to Arsenal. And if he can mould that into some of these young players and they can appreciate the fans more, that will go down so well, Arsenal Football Club.
Well, just to finish, Dan, I'm going to throw another one at you, another little curveball, because I think we've got enough time. Where do you expect Arsenal to finish in this league? I know, look, it's we don't know what the form's going to be like. The form guide goes out the window, but where would you like Arsenal? We know where we would like to finish, but where realistically do you think we're going to finish?
8th. I think we're going to come eighth. I need to be realistic. I can't. It sounds pessimistic, but I'm being realistic. I don't feel this team has the passion, desire, or mentality to get us into Europe. I don't think that we have. I think there's better. I think we're a better team on paper than some of them ahead of us, but I don't think that we have the team ethic or the mentality to move us forward. And the reason I say that is because I look at a team like Wolves, and on paper, Wolves we'd have a couple of their players. Don't get me wrong, but really, we are a better team on paper than Wolves. But their mentality and their way they play as a team is fantastic. You look at Leicester, and when Leicester won the league, they had the best team. They didn't have the best individual players.
Yeah,
They had the best team of that season. We haven't got the best team of that season. We would have players that would walk into most of the sides. Or
yeah,
Aubameyang would get into any side probably in the world.
yeah,
But on paper, we have got a great side. As a team, it's not working. And the other thing is, I look at Sheffield United, Burnley, even Wolves, Everton under Ancelotti. They all seem to have a better team ethic than we do at the moment. And maybe Arteta can improve and prove me wrong. And I hope for Lord that he does prove me wrong.
yeah, yeah,
And we hope so. And we push for top four, because if we do beat Man City, you look at the table, we're right back in it, 5 points off the top four. So that's the way we've got to be trying to look at it. But I do look at it realistically, and I think that we're not quite there yet. And it may be a blessing in disguise that we finish outside of Europe, and we can be allowed to start again one game a week with the coaching of it. So I'm going to go for eighth. What about yourself?
yeah. I think we're gonna finish about six. I don't
Okay.
think I don't. We haven't been good enough. If we're honest, we haven't been good enough. To finish with a flourish would be good, and to get six, fifth or sixth, I could see us top four not happening. We couldn't do it. We couldn't do it when we're all together, so I can't see it happening now. It's difficult to say that because we're Arsenal boys. We love the club, but realism must kick in, and we just haven't been good enough. We haven't fixed the problems again that have needed to be fixed. So we're gonna miss out, and it's gonna prove to be a blessing. I think you're right, Dan. You're right. But Dan,
I hope
that's
so,
it,
man.
mate. But that's it. We're done again. I got to get you for part three because obviously after a few games into the season, we're gonna have loads to talk about, aren't we?
Yeah,
We're
I
gonna be
can't
able
wait,
to
man.
touch on all sorts.
Always a pleasure speaking to you, Kev. You know that, and I'm free anytime, man. So thank you for getting in touch and doing a part two, man. I'll look forward to part three.
Now I look forward to it too, Dan. Thanks for your time, mate. Cheers.
Cheers, Kev. Take care, mate.